What is going on here? Okay, there we go. So for some reason my headset was like super twisted up and it looks like the cord got unplugged because it was so twisted up. But yes, welcome to everyone who is joining me for yet another Silksong Tapestry live stream. Let's just turn off the image for the waiting. So far, this has been quite a nice um, segue from my normal art style, and I'm really enjoying myself. Um, there's still a couple of things that I want to do, like, for example, here, last time when I was working on the fourth chorus, I kind of made these intentionally kind of cartoony, but they don't really fit. So I am going to come back and just kind of render that a bit more. I still also need to do like the red moss on the bottom of the fourth chorus, um, but all of that is stuff that I will do um, as I go on. And just a quick note, I am not going to be streaming this to Instagram. I've just decided it's not really worth it to stream this to Instagram, because Instagram's cropping means that anyone who'd watch it on Instagram wouldn't really be able to see what was going on. So, decided to just let that go. Alright, so I'm gonna now build this background into the Hunter's March. So we've got the fourth chorus background with all the lava and stuff. I want to now kind of build that up into the next background, which is going to be more like grasslands and stuff like that. I do apologize. I am eating while also doing this. I kind of forgot that I was going to be streaming today, and I had to pick up a package. So, like, my entire morning has been me running around like a chicken with its head cut off. And I definitely wanted to prioritize like finishing this work and getting this work done because I'd actually been thinking about this work in my off time quite a bit. So let me just check. Is that okay? So that is the line art. So what I'm doing now is bad because what I was doing just there was going to destroy the line art, and I kind of need the line art to see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to create a new layer and I'm going to group these two for the sake of my sanity. Let's call this group Hunter's March. It is also insanely hot today, but also overcast because it's probably going to rain in the afternoon because of how insanely hot it is. Like, for reference, I'm just checking my temperature settings. I've got like a clock that also tells me the temperature. I know my computer also can tell me the temperature, but I don't know. I don't like looking at that. Yeah, it is 33 degrees Celsius, which is insanely hot. So I do have a fan going in the background, and I do apologize if that causes some noise. I don't think it would. I feel like general noise suppression on my headset should probably deal with that pretty effectively. But if it is, then I apologize. Okie dokes. So let's just put in the green here. I also realized that in general on Saturdays I don't really have as big of an audience. I assume that's because people are actually doing stuff on Saturdays they can't do during the week because of work. So in general, I might not talk as much. I may just focus on actually getting the details of this piece to where I want it to be. Um, Rather than talking about it because, you know, it's progress. Ugh. I'm also just like super phlegmy because of all of the dust in the air. Like, it's been raining a lot in the evenings, and the rental situation that I currently live in is one in which I essentially live inside uh, a dust trap. So Yeah. Um, so every time it rains, the dust like gets into my nose and into my face and stuff. It's quite annoying. And thank you for people on the chat. Just a quick note, I do not um, connect with people on Discord via these streams. If you would like to hit me up for commissions um, or something to that nature, you are more than welcome to reach out on Discord, and that is fine, but it is very much a professional setup on my Discord, so the tag to find me on Discord is TAO0230, so Tao0230. So DM me. I do have my Discord set up to accept messages from non-friends if you would like to discuss commissions or things of that nature. But unfortunately, I do not reach out to other people on Discord, at least via this platform, because, yeah, obvious reasons. People can also feel free to DM me on Instagram. So Instagram, the handle is tao.artworks, so tao.artworks. You can find me there, again, to discuss commissions or just send messages or whatever. I am not very active on Instagram in general. I'm not very active on my socials at all. But if you have questions or things of that nature, I'd say Instagram is probably, well, actually, no, Discord's the best place to ask questions of that nature, but Instagram is easier for me to follow up on said questions. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm just kind of adding in the details of this underbrush, and I'm using this screenshot, which is actually from an area that's kind of between the Hunter's March and I think Deep Docks. I can't quite remember. Like, I'm just looking at this screenshot, and frankly, the Hunter's March is a nightmare to try and navigate. A lot of the areas in there look exactly the same, and I struggle with navigation at the best of times, not even in video games, just in real life. So whenever I go there, I'm kind of just very much relying on my map. But I am fairly certain, which is not that much, that this reference here is looking at an area that is right between the Hunter's March and Deep Docks. And I don't have Deep Docks on here because, frankly, it's just not an area that I found very memorable. Like, it's fine. It's a nice area. It's not a nice area. It's a terrible area. And that's where you actually fight the fourth chorus. So I guess I do technically have Deep Docks on here, but I don't really count that as Deep Docks because that's, like, the deeper Deep Docks. But, like, the upper area of Deep Docks where you fight all of the annoying, ironclad bugs that just, like, you have to hit them from very specific angles because if you hit them on their armor, it doesn't do any damage, and they just keep hitting you. And throwing fireballs sometimes. But yeah, not a fan. Turn off sample all layers. So I currently had sample all layers selected for my mixer brush, which was a problem because it was taking color from the silk strand, and it was putting it onto this layer that I'm working on, and I did not want that. Now, it is generally a good idea whenever you are drawing in a software like Photoshop to make sure that your layers are ordered in such a way that you can easily find them, but also to make sure that the order of your layers allows you to move them around, if that makes any sense, which it probably didn't. What I basically mean is that if you have layers in Photoshop, like I currently do, I want to be able to do stuff on this layer, and if I need to, I can move this layer below the other layer or turn it off or really do whatever I need in any given moment. What I think I'm actually trying to say is, like, it's a good idea to split things into layers rather than keeping them on sort of one layer. Like, it's a balancing act at the end of the day, because while you do want to keep things on separate layers for the sake of being able to edit them separately and have things behind and in front of each other, on the other hand, if you become too reliant on using multiple layers for, like, every single thing that you're going to try, you're going to end up with a lot of layers, and that actually just makes your workspace really messy, and it's really difficult to work with. Like, eventually I'm going to start merging all of these down into singular layers as I want them. Like, this is maybe the most highly planned piece I've ever done. Like, digital piece. Like, I've done traditional art before where, like, the planning is insane and I really, really struggled with it. But this is maybe the most, like, pre-thought out digital piece that I've ever done, hence why, as I'm doing it, I have, like, 1,000,004 layers going at once. Generally, I don't do that. Generally, I try and limit myself to, like, 3 to 4 layers at a time. And if I need more, then I need to start merging stuff down. And that's just a preference thing, like, because I know myself to be kind of obsessive when I start getting into a drawing. I don't necessarily want to be drawing something and then get obsessed over one part of it or a bunch of parts of it, and because of, like, decision paralysis, not wanting to, like, try out things, so, like, I have, like, 1,000,000 layers where I'm trying different stuff, even though, like, I already know what I want to do. So, like, for me, limiting the amount of layers kind of helps me to avoid that. I'm gonna eat a mouthful of chips now. But yeah, in general, I think my workflow is not very responsible. Like, I taught myself how to paint in Photoshop and use Photoshop for various things, which was frustrating. Photoshop has kind of always been a very, very heavy application. So, like, trying to learn it by yourself is a bit stressful. And this was kind of before, like, YouTube tutorials were really, like, a thing. Like, they were a thing, but they weren't as easy to find, let's say. So, like, back in the day, for those non-millennials out there, if you purchased a software, like Photoshop, it would come with, like, CDs, and those CDs would often contain tutorials that the company had made about how to run their software. And, like, they still do that, I think, to some degree, but, like, no one has a CD drive in their computer anymore, so I don't know why they do that. So, like, when I was, I don't even know how old, I'd say, like, 12, 13, 14-ish, maybe around that time. It's hard to tell. I don't even know what's going on with my life. My mom got a CS5 Photoshop license, and it came with a disc explaining how to use Photoshop, and I kind of used that disc badly to try and teach myself Photoshop. I say badly because at the time, I mean, I've probably been ADHD my entire life, but I didn't realize it. Um, I literally could not sit through this tutorial thing. Like, it was something like 5 standard lessons. And it was a beginner's course. Like, it was some sort of deal they were doing where they were like, here, we'll give you this beginner's course with the package of CS5, and you can learn to use Photoshop from this package, and then once you've learned to use Photoshop, then you will have learned to use Photoshop, and you will have Photoshop. And my mom, I think, bought it for herself, and then she gave up on it. Not sure what the intention was when she bought it initially, but it was there. And then I started learning it, and I did not want to start from the beginning because I was like, no, I want to start learning this, and like I want to immediately just know everything that I need to know. And being a stupid preteen, I was like, I'm gonna just start in the middle and then work my way from the middle, and then if I need to, I'll go back and look at the beginning stuff, which was a method of doing things that I have always done, and I acknowledge that it makes no sense, and it is not helpful, and it is absolutely not how you should go about following a tutorial or really learning things. In general, because learning is slightly different for different people, but in general, I'd say, like, having now been a teacher for several years and then left that profession, and also been able to teach myself things for many years as a freelancer, and as a human, I feel like the best way to teach yourself something is to just have a project. Like, you need to be motivated to actually learn how to do something. That's the only way that learning is going to actually stick. If you're not motivated to learn something, whatever you are learning is going to be redundant information that goes into you and then gets regurgitated out, like when you go to the bathroom, and it's going to be kind of a waste of your time, frankly. And I'm not talking about, like, education. I have my own opinions on, like, secondary education and primary education and tertiary education, and the uselessness of some of the ways that things are done there, and, like, the uselessness of certain practices in that, like, they don't actually showcase any degree of knowledge, in my opinion, and this is an opinion. However, I will say that if you want to learn something, because you want to learn something, you're already in a better position than someone who's learning it because someone else is forcing them to, simply because of the fact that you are the one choosing to learn that thing. Therefore, you have the motivation of wanting to learn it, But sometimes wanting to learn something also isn't really enough. I just realized I said at the beginning that I probably wasn't going to do much talking, and then I immediately was like, I'm just going to be talking this entire time. But that is what happens. I lie a lot. Back to the point. Even if you do want to learn something, it's not necessarily going to be easy to just sit down, watch a tutorial, and learn it, which is kind of why, like, oftentimes you'll speak to someone, especially like younger adults, younger children, going through the education system, and they'll kind of have a very disheartened attitude towards it because most of their life they were kind of doing this thing that the adults around them were like, you need this to get a job, and you need this to be able to make money, and then they find out, like, nope, the economy sucks, and you're probably not going to get a job anyway. So there's a lot of disillusionment, I think, amongst the younger people these days with regards to education and its actual value. And I've definitely firsthand experienced talking to people who are like, you know, I kind of feel like this is a scam. Like, why am I even doing this? And my answer to that has always been, yeah, why? If you know it's a scam, why are you still here? Like, you're choosing to be here. In my situation, because I was, like, teaching in the creative arts department, which, you know, there's not a lot of parents who are willing to let their kids do stuff that's creative. So, like, if you're doing a course in animation or a course in fine arts or a course in game design or something like that, most likely your parents actually care about what you want to do, not just about what they want you to do. So, like, at the point where, you know, you will still get kids being like, I don't understand why I'm doing this. The answer to that is you're doing it because you're choosing to do it, and I don't know how to answer that question for you. If you don't want to do this, don't do it. Like, I'm sure your parents would really prefer all that money back for their own stuff. I've gone off on a tangent. What was I saying? Right, learning. So like even in situations where you're like, I'm going to buy myself, so this is where the related thing was. Like I've met a lot of kids who are like, I could just go and learn animation on my own. I could just go and learn game design entirely on my own. Why do I need to be here in this degree trying to learn this thing when I could just watch YouTube videos and learn this by myself? And the answer to this is it's complicated. Generally, if you're in a tertiary education institute and you are doing something creative like that, you are already doing that because you know that you will be benefiting from it in some shape, way, or form. So, like, you already know that for whatever reason, you're not really the sort of person who can just learn things from YouTube videos, or you already know that you want to do this, like you want to go for, because I'm teaching in South Africa, but it's like you want to go overseas, and therefore having a degree is kind of like, that's not an option. You need to have a degree to be able to go overseas to work or study. So it's like that's why you need to then sit down and be taught classes and get a degree. That is the reason. However, if you are the sort of person who's like, no, I could just teach myself this and then make my own games or make my own animations or make my own stuff, you absolutely can do that. But again, like, being able to actually motivate yourself to sit down and learn something, even if you do have the motivation and like you do want to learn that thing, can be difficult. I struggle, I think, more than the average person with like sitting down and learning things with tutorials because of aforementioned ADHD tendencies. But I also feel as though my general thing is, as long as I can find a motivation, and for a long time that motivation was money. Like if I was doing commissions, then I was incentivized to get better at drawing. I was incentivized to do various YouTube videos to find things out that like my clients wanted. Like if I was doing, like, the amount of times where I was commissioned to do an illustration thing and then the client would suddenly be like, oh yeah, I also want this to move. And it's like, that's not what illustration is, guys. Illustration means it doesn't move. Animation is where it moves. If you commission someone for animation, you're paying them about 10 times more than if you commission them for illustration. But the amount of times where I'd be working with someone and then they'd suddenly say, oh yeah, I actually want you to do the animations for this thing. And I'd be like, okay, I mean, I can animate, but like, we're looking at completely different prices. And, you know, most of the time at that point, they'd be like, oh, okay, whatever. But there were a couple times where people were like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. Let's pursue this, even though that wasn't what we were initially doing, and that wasn't like why I signed on to the project. And then I would have to like get good at whatever animation. And like, that's how I kind of learned a bit about Live 2D, was working with someone who was making a game and they wanted animations and they wanted the animations in Live 2D. And I, for some reason, I guess because they'd heard of it and they were like, that sounds cool. Like, that's also a really annoying thing a lot of times with commissioning and clients, is especially with clients who have loftier goals but like no idea how to reach said loftier goals. They will often basically be like, oh, I heard about this in a YouTube video, so let's use this. And it's like, yeah, you don't really, that software's not for what you want, actually. Not only is it not for what you want, but it costs like way more than you seem to be aware of. Anyway, several hidden vents in that one sentence, Jesus. But yeah, it's not really easy unless you have a motivation to learn stuff. So a motivation for some people can be as simple as just having a project. Like, if you want to learn like Live 2D, because you want to make VTubing models, then you should start streaming so that you can have a reason to want to make a VTube model, and then you will go to Live 2D and make a VTube model. That's just a subtle drop of things to come. You know, if you want to learn Photoshop, try and make a birthday card for your friend or your mom or someone in Photoshop. And then, like because it's a friend or a mom and it's a birthday card, not like something super like meaningful or like worthwhile, it doesn't matter if you're still learning how to do it and you mess it up. I think that has always been something that I am very grateful for in my own life, is the fact that I'm not scared of messing up. Like through teaching, I've met so many people, and just like life, because I think like we live in a very unforgiving atmosphere. Like everything's super competitive. I think most people at my age of nearly 30 have encountered adults in their childhood who didn't really stand for imperfection, even though they themselves were horrifically imperfect. And that's kind of been ingrained culturally, at least in my socio-cultural upbringing, that like failure is this thing that you cannot do. And I feel very grateful that for whatever reason, I've always been okay to fail. Like, it obviously doesn't feel nice to fail, but like, there's not really any failure in the world. Let me rephrase that. There's not really any success in the world that is not itself a result of a string of failures. And I truly believe that statement. I feel like if you're not willing to try new things, which will inevitably not work out, you're not going to learn what you need to learn to make things work better. Also, I think I need to plug my tablet back in because my Alt button doesn't seem to be working right now. Hello, are you back? And now the hand orientation's flipped. Okay, now it's back. Great, cool, my Alt button's working again. The shortcut for the eyedropper tool is Alt, and I have that programmed onto my tablet for a button, and it wasn't working for some reason. Right, talking about failure. Various failure. Yeah, there's just no success that just kind of arises from nothing. Like, sure, it depends on how you quantify success, I guess. Like, if for you success is waking up in the morning, then I presume that arises from nothing. But, like, actually going out, doing something, making something with your own two hands, building something, achieving something that is significant to you, and requires slightly more effort than just waking up. Those are all things that you are going to have failures with, and that's just kind of how it works. Like, you need to be able to see what works, and that's what trial and error is. Trial and error is trying stuff, and when it doesn't work, you're like, okay, why didn't that work? How do I try again to make it work better? I know another phrase as we go through this list of platitudes, that a lot of my friends like to use, which is it's only a failure when you give up. I also don't really believe in that, honestly, because I do think that like sunk cost fallacy is a very real thing. Like oftentimes you'll keep hitting your head against a wall when the better solution would be to just go do something else. And the reason that you're doing it is because in your head you have the sunk cost fallacy that you've put in so much effort and so much time and so much energy into this thing that you need to complete it. If you don't complete it, then your cost is what you put into it is tantamount to nothing. You failed, and that's the only thing that comes out of that is the fact that you failed. And I really don't believe that, because there are often times, and like I've experienced this in my life, I've observed lots and lots of other people doing it, in which you don't know what the hell you are doing. And that is fine, because that is what it means to be human, is to not know what the hell you are doing, and to discover what the hell you are doing by kind of doing it. And if every action that we did was defined by, if you're doing it, then you have to continue doing it until you are dead, then it would be a really, really rough time for all of us, I think. I'm just taking a step back from the tapestry to see how it's looking. I think that's looking pretty good. And what I mean by that isn't, again, like, oh, well, don't give up. Like, obviously don't give up if the thing that you're working towards is, again, something that you're motivated to work towards and that you want to work towards. But it's when you have people who are scared of failure, who feel like because they're doing something that they absolutely hate, that's giving them absolutely no joy, and they feel absolutely not motivated to do, when people like that are being told and are telling themselves, if you give up on this thing that is valueless to you, it means you're a quitter. It means you're a failure. It means that there's something wrong with you. And I highly disagree with that, because I'm like, I feel as though every single person has things that are valuable to them and things that are clearly not valuable to them, things that are not providing them with anything in their lives, and they're just doing it because. And at that point, it's almost like you're wasting more time doing this thing that you hate and that's providing you no value than if you were to just do something else, do something that does provide you value. And if you don't actually know what provides you value in your life, that's also something to consider, something to look at within yourself. Why do you not have anything that you find valuable? Is it because you have always been doing things for others, so your value didn't matter, so you never actually came to your own conclusions about what you value in life? Or is it because you genuinely just don't have any interests? And I somehow feel like it's never gonna be that option. Like, I've definitely heard from people, and those people have since very much gained a new understanding of, I think, their own understanding of life. Like, I've heard people who are like, oh yeah, no, I don't have anything that I care about or that I want to do because I'm lazy. And I'm like, that's not what lazy means. It's also, like, I feel like you saying that is kind of indicative of a mentality, and maybe, like, because again, like, ex-teacher coming from the perspective, like, talking to students, like, that sounds like very much like a mentality where it's like your parents said that you were lazy because you didn't want to do what they wanted you to do. And now you've internalized that, and now every time someone asks you what you want in your life, you're afraid to tell them because at some point in your life, someone took your admission to something that you liked or something that you wanted to do or something that gave you value, and they stepped on it. So now you're afraid to just admit what makes you happy. And I've been there. I have definitely been there. I know so many people who have been there. I know so many young people who have been there and who are still there, and or who are trying desperately to fight their way out of that mindset. But once it's there, it's really hard. It's really hard to get out of that. So yeah, I do feel like failure is inevitable and failure is necessary, because failure is just part of research. Failure is how you learn how to do better next time. And sometimes something that you consider to be a failure, you'll realize actually wasn't a failure because you learned something from it. And if you learned something of value from it, then it had value. It's as simple as that. What is going on here? Why is that erasing weird? Did I just hallucinate that? Okay, I don't know. Maybe I was hallucinating that. So this is something that you shouldn't do if you can avoid it, but I'm doing it now because I can't be bothered, which is I'm just drawing something on a lower layer in the top layer. This is going to be a problem later unless I merge things down, and I'm probably not going to remember to merge things down. So again, don't be like me. Okay. I'm likely going to need some sort of moderation for these bots here. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. This is not going to be a long stream. I still have other things to do today, so I can actually promise it's not going to be a long stream instead of every time I've been like, oh, it's not going to be a long stream, and then it ends up being like a 4-hour stream. I'm going to be finishing up in half an hour. So it's just going to be an hour because I still have work to do. Yay. Because I didn't do the things that I was supposed to have done yesterday because I felt sick. Honestly, I've been feeling sick a lot lately, which might just be the change of seasons. I think it's because I am sleeping on a pillow currently that feels like rocks, and it is destroying my neck, and there's like no position I can get comfortable in. Like, going on to another adulting rant, but like the one thing that I always felt would be a very easy thing to do, because I did it before I was an adult, and now I do it as an adult, and that's buying pillows. Like, I used to really love buying pillows, because, like, pillows are fun and cool, and, like, you sleep on them, and they're nice. I know I'm maybe the only person in the world who has this sentiment about pillows and buying pillows being nice and fun and lovely, but, like, I used to buy those Continental pillows from the people in like, the malls who just stand there and their entire job is to sell Continental pillows. I used to love buying those pillows, and, like, I would buy pillows later on if I found, like, you know, cool, what is it, orthopedic technology. Like, I just buy pillows. And now, like, I have a lot of pillows, and none of them are comfortable. So I feel like it's a paradox. Like, the more pillows you buy, specifically to replace your uncomfortable pillows, the less comfortable you will be. You know, it might also just be them buying really cheap pillows. Like, that's actually probably the reason. I'm just gonna shut up now. Okay, so here I want the vine that's connected to these little bulbs to be more visible. Just trying to see how... Okay, yeah, they're just kind of hanging randomly on these bulbs. So I'm just gonna make that a lighter green. Like, they're not lighter in the game, because in the game they kind of want you to focus on the bulb and not the stuff around the bulb. But here I just want to focus on everything. So a lighter green it is. And that'll come down into this drawing. Oh yeah, I got so sidetracked. I forgot to mention the other characters that I think I need to include into this. So, spoilers, obviously, for anyone who's not played Silksong and maybe wants to play Silksong. There is a character called Garamond. I believe his name is Garamond. And I remember that because one of your taunts that you can use to gain extra silk powers is Garama. And Garamond is a warrior who rides around on a bug named Zara, and you meet them throughout the game, and sometimes they actually help you to beat enemies. Sometimes they lend a hand, and it makes a boss fight that would otherwise just be incredibly frustrating a lot easier. They're not always there, but sometimes they're there. And in Act 3, Garamond goes off on his own to fight the atrocities that have started to pop up all over the land because of the shit that you did, because of your mistakes and your actions. So he goes off to fight stuff, and it is very much a pride quest, which he says, because his whole deal is being a warrior, like everyone else in Farloom and in the Citadel are like pilgrims. They've all come out there to have some sort of holy reunion with their spider ghost mom queen thing. I'm not entirely sure of the lore, honestly, but he is going around helping people, saving people. He mentions that his own home was destroyed, so he has incentive to help others, but also doesn't really have anything other than is it Zara or Zaza? I think it's Zaza. other than his bug that he rides, he doesn't really have anything worth losing. So, in Act 3, you find Zaza, the bug, in, like, right next to a quick travel point, and she takes you to him, and he's been taken over by the Abyss, and it is genuinely incredibly sad. Like, it might have been the saddest moment in a 2D game about bugs that I've ever played, which is 2, this and Hollow Knight. And I mean, like, when, also spoilers for Hollow Knight, I guess. When Mila dies in Hollow Knight, that's also pretty terrifyingly sad. Not terrifyingly, it's sad. It's really, really sad when Mila dies. So, yeah, like, this is also sad. I would go so far as to say that it is sadder when Garamond dies than when Mila dies. So, yeah, like, that was something that I went through recently, and I kind of want to put Garamond and Zaza in this piece somewhere. Like, I don't know if I'm going to do something like with the fleas, where they're just, like, fleas everywhere. I just kind of have to find them, or if I'm going to do something a bit more nuanced than that. Like, I might just have them, like, in an area, but, like, hidden in the area somewhere, and you can see them, like, because this, again, is just, like, a very personal drawing for me. Like, I will probably make these for sale during Comic-Cons. I'm not going to put them on, like, a store or Instagram or anything like that, like, other than just showcasing them. But, like, this is something that I want to hang on my wall, and I want to be able to look through and remember the good times of playing Silksong. And I will most likely do one for Hollow Knight as well when I get to that point. So, yeah, like, if I look at this, yeah, there's some room behind the Clockwork Dancers, so I'm probably going to put, like, some cogwork stuff behind them. I didn't sketch any of that out because the cogwork areas are frankly insane. Like, if I just look at these references, like, there's so many cogs. Like, my bane, the bane of my existence, is drawing non-organic shapes. And by the way, a perfect circle is non-organic. Like, circles are not meant to be perfect spheres. They are very much not that. So, given that, I will probably just... What shall I do? I will probably end up putting it in, but putting it in elsewhere. I don't know yet. I'm leaving a lot of my plans for this piece to, we'll figure that out later. And truly, we will figure that out later, because right now, I'm just enjoying kind of drawing and going. So we'll figure it out later. Okay, cool. So now comes the real question. Do I want to draw the other side? Or do I want to cheat so that I can go and draw something else? And I think we all know the answer to that question. So I'm going to do a little bit of a cheat here. I'm just going to select an area that I've already drawn on this side, because they're similar rock formations. I'm just going to copy that. Control T to bring up our transform controls and flip it horizontally. And I'm just going to boop that over here. And no one will know unless they watched this video. Okay, I'm not actually going to cheat entirely. I am going to clean this up a little bit and make it a little bit more unique, because it is usually a thing where, like, the stuff on the one side is not as mossy as the stuff on the other. It's just a thing. Go look at it. There we go. That looks different enough that I can say it's different enough. By the way, I am going to paint Hornet last, so she is going to be a gray, unrendered ghost for most of this process. I am probably also going to do a little bit of work on this off-stream at some point, if I can be bothered, just because, like, I've recently started thinking about like what I want to put in here, and that means that I'm kind of fixated on it now. So I'm probably gonna do a little bit more off stream, and then come back with more of it done. And yes, those red bouncy balls are so fantastic. I might want one more. I feel like the amount of them is not yet creating a pleasing enough composition. So I'm just gonna insert red bouncy ball thing here. And this is just very loose and very like open to clean up later. It really does not have to be I really don't need to overthink this. Although something that I might want to do is, because I'm making like the little specular highlights on all of these, it's probably in my best interest to make the specular highlights just facing the same direction so that it just kind of looks like the lighting is the same. And I know it's like, this is an abstract drawing in which one background just changes into another. Why would the lighting be the same? And to that I say, shut up. It's going to be the same because I want it to be the same. And on that note, I'm also going to draw in some more highlights at the bottom here with the fourth chorus. So this is just going to highlight the background, and it's also just going to help the transition between the glowing rocks and the mossy forest come off a little bit better. Like, highlight outlines really can do a lot. Nice. That looks good. So now, let's just figure out, is this flea on its own layer, or is it in a background somewhere? I'm trying to select it, but it's not actually letting me select anything. Hang on. There we go. Flea caravan. Yeah, okay, so it is on its own layer of sorts. So, how do I want to go about doing this? Do I want to put the fleas in a background layer of color and then have their color out on top of them? Probably not, because they're super simple. They're just like balls of fluff, even though I don't have any references for them. Stand by while I collect references, please. Flea caravan. So yeah, I'm probably just gonna paint directly onto the line art layer, because I'm not trying to make these very detailed, and the fleas in general aren't very detailed. So going back up to my references. Okay, the reference I got is tiny. Jeez. There we go. That's what the fleas look like. They are very gray. Oh, I do want one with its mouth open. That's going to be really cute. I'm going to put the one with its mouth open really near the top. Okay, and I'm just going to use my selection tool on this. I feel like that will be the easiest way to do this. I also love this game has made one of the most disgusting, most harmful insects, if fleas are insects, because I actually don't know, of all time, into like cute and fluffy and cuddly Labradors. Like, that blows my mind that they decided to do that for reasons beyond comprehension. I'm just gonna make the color of its fur more reflective of light. So in this image, because they're just on like a black background, presumably this is from when they're like in their final area that they go and live in, so they're not very well lit in that area. I'm also going to make the ears / wings a lot floppier than what they are. Given that there are no flea creatures in Hollow Knight, it leads me to suspect that they may have gone extinct, which is horrible. That is a horrible thing to think about. And on the note of Hollow Knight Silksong and what's been going on there with my playthrough, specifically with my playthrough, I have returned to the game finally after a long hiatus because, wow, I needed a break. Things were getting super concerning, and as I mentioned, there were some very deeply emotionally upsetting moments that occurred, and I just needed a break. I just needed a break. There's no shame in that. But I am now on Speed Master Sprint or Splint, whatever his name is. The guy who wants to race you. So I'm at that point. I have done 2 of the races. I am aware that there are 4. And frankly, I am getting tired because I really hate that sort of carnivalesque side quest thing. Like, I hate the running quests. Especially the running quests where, like, you have to take something with you, which this is not. But I do not like it. And the game is asking me to race this guy 4 times in obstacle courses of varying difficulty. And I am just like, okay, but, like, is the memento worth it? I assume I get a memento at the end of it. Is it worth it? Yes, so I have to, but also, do I really have to? So I was doing that, and I'm basically running between that side quest and the main quest of Scar Singer Carmelita. It's quite a title, so I always need to just remember to say it right, because I first thought her name was Carmela, and then I thought it was Camilla. Yeah, it's Carmelita, and then I'm gonna find out it's something else. And it's Scar Singer, because the ants are called scars, and it is bullshit. Obviously, it is bullshit, because it's Silksong. But it's bullshit in a way that is different than other things in Silksong are bullshit. Like, it's very much a war of attrition sort of fight. So she has a ridiculous amount of health. I actually was enjoying the fight very much at the beginning, because, as I've mentioned before, my enjoyment from the Metroidvania-esque games like Silksong is from the kind of choreographed, almost dancing-like fights. And I found her fight to be quite easy to follow. At least, like, not easy to follow, but, like, hopefully someone somewhere gets what I mean. It's got a beat to it that is very pleasant to follow. Yes, that is probably what I meant. And I was really enjoying doing it. But the thing is, she's got a ridiculous amount of health and like 7,000 stages before you can beat her. It's not that many. I am exaggerating, but like, it's a lot. It takes a long time to beat her, and you need to go through all these stages, and I'm going with the Architect's Crest, which is the strongest crest in the game, I think. I might be wrong, don't quote me on that. But I'm going through with a really strong crest, and every stage she speeds up, and every stage she gains a new attack that has slightly more range than the last one. So, like, I've gotten her to stage 5. So, like, 5... When I say stage 5, I specifically mean, like, 5 times that I've managed to stagger her and gotten free hits. And then I just keep messing up in, like, the final... I hope it's the final bits. I keep messing up in the final bits because she's become so ridiculously fast. And also the range has increased to ridiculous extents, so then I'm not able to actually pogo properly, and yeah, it just becomes a thing. So yeah, I've just been doing that fight over and over and over again. It's been about 3 play sessions now that I've just been doing that fight. And then when I get frustrated or bored with that fight, I'll move to the sprinting guy, because that's also a thing that I have to do for reasons that someone said that I have to do it, so now I have to do it. I'm trying to make this look fluffy, and I'm not entirely sure how best to go about making it look fluffy. Like, they are very fluffy creatures. But, like, it's like a round fluff. And I'm used to doing, like, sharp fluff. Like, they've got, like, very rounded, fluffy edges, almost like feathers. It's not feathers, it's fur. So I'm just kind of seeing what works with that. I don't know what works yet, but I'm trying to see what works and trying to make this work. I'm at least going to finish this guy's face. I cannot leave without the face being finished, so at least it's a very easy face. It's not like they have eyes. This is also something that I am... Like, maybe I should just not be asking these questions, frankly, because this is just... This is just stuff that's like, there's no point asking these questions. It's like asking, like, why does Bugs Bunny smoke a carrot, you know? But the fleas that you return to the flea caravan, the flying ones, they're like babies or they're like pets? I am confused by this concept for so many reasons. Because if they are like babies, then that is presuming that at some point they're going to lose the wings on their heads, the ear wings. It's going to presume that they'll lose those. And once they lose those, they'll grow a thorax and a mustache, and they'll become like they'll become like these guys. They'll become like these three, right? So it's like, were they dogs once? Or is it am I completely misunderstanding, and it's like, okay, they just own these fleas, like they're a caravan, which doesn't necessarily mean they're a circus. It just means they're a caravan. It just means they travel together in a caravan. And then they take care of these dog-like fleas, but then the dog-like fleas got lost when they were on the way there. Please, someone explain that to me. Okay, what is this layer? Oh, okay, so that's stuff from the abyss layer that has made it up here. Like, a lot of stuff made it up here, jeez. It's okay to delete your line art layers if they don't make sense. It's okay to delete everything if it doesn't make sense. Just delete everything. Delete everything, start over. Burn your house down. Burn your house down, start over. Okie dokes. I'm like watching the clock because I have to be out of here by 3. And it's 1 minute to 3. So let's have a look what we've got here. Okay, one more thing before I head off. I'll just give it legs. That's all. Just because they do have legs. They've got 4 stick legs. But also on the note of, like, do they just grow into the big fleas? Like, there was a big one. There's a big dog flea that you find in Greymoor. And it's big. Like, it's really big. It's really fat. So now, is that one just obese? Because I think the text said something about it getting older, and that's why it was so big. So, like, when they grow, they get bigger. They don't metamorphosize. So how are these guys fleas, and these are also... I don't understand. Frankly, it doesn't matter. It really just does not matter. Nobody cares. They're fleas, and that's all that matters. Okay, so we've made a small amount of progress, and we're slowly working our way up. I seem to have unconsciously saved the abyss for last, and I did also say that I was going to save the cradle for last, so those are probably going to be the last panels that I work on. Yeah, so I'm just gonna go through the middle. And then, yeah, and then, well, Hornet's going to be, like, the absolute last thing, because she's going to be right at the top, and once she has been completed, then I will consider this done. But so far, I'm really, really liking how this looks. I am so stoked to see how this looks when it's actually printed onto a tapestry. I don't know where I'm gonna... Actually, no, I know exactly where I'm gonna hang it. I'm gonna hang it above my 3D printer because, yes, that's also the only, like, piece of wall space that I have in the place that I'm renting. And I will take a picture of it and put that picture on Instagram. So thank you to everyone who has joined this stream. I really appreciate everyone who stops by and has a look at this stuff that I'm doing. And I will hopefully stream again either on Monday or Tuesday.